Welcome back. Just got done talking baseball and also health insurance. I'm really kind of proud of us, Chad, because we've had somebody on from every side of this. Really, I mean, we had. Well, I
We
guess
haven't had the insurance companies yet.
we had the insurance commissioner,
Right.
who I feel like in some ways was kind of making the insurance or industry's argument.
Yeah.
But you're right, we haven't had the. But we had the government on. Chris Jones working at the federal level, Godfried working at the state level, and then we had Mr. Blazalon from the Hospital Association. And again, I think there's more we can do on price transparency, and I think his argument against Representative Hendricks's bill was a little specious. If they're already
Yeah.
then it's not that hard to just send the state the report to.
Yeah. So that's what I was confused by. And that's where I was going prior to that. Sort of okay, you're saying the state doesn't require it, so we don't do it. So what if the state does require it? Will it be a bunch of work? And he said, no. Okay, then let's do it. And then later he said, we don't want to do it for the state because we already have to do it for the feds. Well,
He also,
hit CC on the email, Rob, and just
right.
include the state.
And he also said that to get some of what the state would want, you'd have to kind of go digging through the different Medicaid. Well, then I don't want to create a lot of extra red tape for any business in the state, let alone a business where the costs are soaring.
He said it wouldn't be.
I think it's that much red tape. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that hard. So, but also, I mean, for as much as we're focused on price transparency, and I think there's some victories we can get there that would help, that's not a panacea.
No, of course not.
Most Americans access healthcare. And I'm not kidding, Chad. I'm sure you feel the same way as a child. Like your kid gets a cough or something, and the next thing you know, as a dad or as a mom, you're thinking, oh my God, we're gonna have to go to the hospital. What if it's serious? You're worried about your kid, but you're also worried about what's this bill gonna be. And I do that for myself. I will be honest with you. I don't go to the doctor nearly as often as I should have. I'm doing better now.
Yep.
But throughout my life, I have not gone to the doctor nearly as often as I should have. I have lived with sicknesses and illnesses where I probably should have gone in and didn't, because I didn't want to pay the bill.
Yeah. Here's sort of what, I do think the consumer often gets lost in this thing, right? Because I do think it's a lot of, hospital finance is confusing. And if you do this FOIA request, this is public information. That's not what normal people do. It was several times. People need to understand hospital finances. I'm engaged in this conversation. I'm never going to understand hospital finances. I'm never going to understand them.
I don't need to understand auto industry prices to understand what a good price is for a car and how that fits into my household budget and the trade-offs between the type of car and how old it is and my budget. I mean, I can do my household budget, but I don't need to understand. I just need to know the cost of the service that you're going to provide me.
Right. And I think the other piece here, and it's what Godfried brought up. On one hand, he can regulate the insurance rate increases because he gets all their financials and whatever. But on the other side, he doesn't get to see that for hospitals, or nobody at the state sees that for hospitals unless you dig into the 990s or go to this report or this. We need to have both sets of books, right, to figure out sort of what the costing is here. I worry that there is a interest in keeping this complicated because there are a lot of people benefiting financially from the current health system. I'm not saying Tim, I'm not saying any specific hospitals, but this is complicated. And I think there's some people who want to keep it complicated. So people like me and the people I work with don't understand it.
That is why I wanted to commend them for the excellent care that we get. Because there's a lot of people working at these hospitals, working in Tim's industry, that are wonderful people, skilled people that are helping a lot of people, keeping people alive, reducing their suffering, keeping them healthy. And I don't want to lose sight of that either. And that costs money. And those people deserve to be paid for their time. But on the other side, there is clearly a disconnect here. There is a disconnect when, the tech industry can offer all the services it does, like this remarkable thing, and the prices are affordable. I mean, now I could complain about how many streaming services I have to subscribe to baseball season now. There's some problems there, but for the most part, the cost of cell phones, the cost of streaming services, all this technology we have has been kept relatively in check. Like the inflation rate on that industry is not high. Healthcare is through the roof. Something has gone off the rails here. I understand that healthcare it's got its own unique challenges and it's evolved in a lot of ways, and we have to pay for that innovation and that expertise. But that doesn't explain it all. Something has gone off the rails, and I think you're right. I mean, if when Xcel Energy wants to do a rate increase, they have to make a case to the Public Service Commission.
Right.
When insurance company, wants to raise premiums, they have to make a case to the insurance commissioner. Maybe hospitals need to make a case for price increases as well. And I, again, understanding that that's complex, but I mean, and the thing is, we're already doing it for one side of the equation. We're already doing it for the insurance companies, but we're not doing anything for the input, like what the insurance companies have to pay for. We're not doing anything on that front. Maybe it's time.
And the pharmaceuticals too.
Well, sure.
Right? I mean, that's the other thing that, I think Tim did an effective job of bringing up. It's not just the hospitals. It's also the pharmaceuticals that cost a ton of money as well.
And like the medical device industry.
Right.
There's now, that being said, the risk of price controls is that you kill innovation.
Right. And that's the problem, right? The reason why we have such good health care in North Dakota and around the country is because of innovation. I will say I'm so pleased that we live in North Dakota. My mother-in-law is currently 2 hours out of surgery for having her hip replaced this morning. And she will be in my home at 3:00 this afternoon recovering. Think about her quality of life is going to be so much better with the new hip.
Yep.
And she went in at 5:30 this morning. We'll be at home, our home, at 3:00 this afternoon. That's because of innovation. That's because our health system is so good. It's going to cost her a ton of money.
Part of what frustrates me about this debate is we say, well, why don't we just control prices like Canada does or like Great Britain does? Forgetting that these are international markets. And a lot of where these companies make up the price difference is in the American market. They can afford to sell at a cheaper place in Canada because they make up for it in the United States. So I don't know that just adopting Canada's policies, in a lot of ways, I would argue people in Great Britain and Canada and in these places where they have a lot more government controls probably are hoping that America doesn't do what they do, because we're the great pressure relief valve for the world on this.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously pay for the innovation that we get in this country, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. We've heard from so many different guests over the last several weeks talking about that. I feel like, by the way, I think health insurance is our new property taxes, that we're going to just talk about it consistently, but I think it's important.
It's huge.
To a person, people are saying, if we're starting from scratch, this is not what we would do. And we don't have the political will or whatever to just break it down and start over. And I think Chris Jones said you'd have two options, a single payer sort of option, or, cash payment on the other sort of fringes of how you'd build this system.
I think it's terrifying because the problem is while we hammer through that, we've still got to deliver the services in real time to everybody.
Yeah.
And if we fundamentally change how it's paid, how do you, somebody who's been on, Medicare, for instance, and paid into it their whole life? I mean, we ought to tear down Medicare and Social Security and start from scratch too, because there's problems there. But everyone's terrified to do it. And especially because Democrats don't want to do it now because Republicans are in charge of everything. So of course we don't want to tear down Social Security now. We're going to get the Republican version of it.
Right. I'm 50 years old, Rob. I turned 50 in January. I'm not quite 50 years old. I don't want to be tearing down Social Security and Medicare right now. I'm about to benefit from this.
When I was 20, but now I've been paying into Social Security since I was 50 years old.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to get at least my money back out of it at some point. It's frustrating. And we're trying to do this in a country that doesn't, right and left don't talk to each other anymore. They don't trust each other. In fact, the President of the United States stood at Charlie Kirk's memorial and talked about how much he hates the opposition, hates them.
We have a government shutdown in Washington where the majority party of the House isn't even in town.
He can't pass an annual budget. And so the idea that we're going to tear down healthcare policy and start again from the studs is, I'd like to, and I agree with you that it's necessary, but how? I don't
You
know.
can't. I mean, it's impossible. But again, I think that what I heard is there should be a bill next session again that forces hospitals to provide their financials to the state, that it won't be any additional work for hospitals, and that's a start.
Progress on price transparency seems
Yep.
like something we can achieve. Bipartisan. I mean, I'm not a fan of Jared Hendricks, the lawmaker, or the political activist, but that bill was a good idea, and
Right.
I'd be happy. I mean, he should be commended for it.
And maybe Jared, look,
I'm not saying that it's perfect as is and
right. And
improve amendment, but
and
it's
that's what I was just going to say. I don't know specifics about Jared's bill, and maybe it wasn't perfect. But rather than saying no, we shouldn't do this because the feds already require it, maybe we need the hospitals to get in to figure out how to make this bill. If we truly want transparency, if we truly want fairness, this is a no-brainer for them to provide that information to the state.
and also given the political realities, I'm honestly open to the idea of maybe the hospitals have to bring their prices to a hospital commissioner, a healthcare commissioner, or something like that to get them approved. And they have to make, like, Xcel Energy wants a 19%. They have to make a case. Like they have to submit a case and they have to justify it.
Yep.
And say this is the reason why. Maybe hospitals should have to do the same thing. And that sounds just radical to me, but holy cow, we have got to get these prices back to the
Like under a normal like free market system, that would be radical and that'd be crazy. But how much
this
of
is
the the government's paying for a big chunk of the services provided at hospitals.
even what's privately paid is through a third party system that essentially, in a lot of ways, is ensconced in place by the government as well. I mean, if you're a employer, you don't have a choice, really. That's the reality. And so much of our public policy and the tax code and everything else is built around that idea of employer provided health insurance. If you're an employer, you kind of don't have a choice.
Right.
So,
Or you're not going to be able to recruit and retain employees.
it's not a free market. So until we're going to rip it down and start a free market,
Or start a socialist market.
or socialist market, I would prefer the other. But until, maybe we just have to impose some price controls on the status quo, because something's got to give.
Yeah.
Or at least make the hospitals come into a room and submit a report on the record and say, this is why the cost of a knee replacement has to go up.
And just saying it's complicated isn't a good enough answer, because it is complicated, but dumb it down for me.
We have smart people in government. We can figure this.
Right. Yeah.
The Fargo Davies thing at the school. First of all, that thing's going to grow. And I think it has ripped the lid off something that I think we all know goes on. My first column, being sort of critical of the Attorney General's press conference, pointed out the fact that teenagers try to see other teenagers naked. And that's not a good thing. And that's a situation that I think requires some adult intervention. I think it's an immature thing and a risky thing. And adults, there's an appropriate place for parents, maybe schools, counselors, things like that. Now, the case at Davies, and it's not, by the way, it's not just Davies. It's also
Right.
multiple schools. I think when I talked to the Attorney General for my article that's up today as we record this on the 15th, I think the Attorney General said 4 other schools so far, or 4 schools total, I think is what he told me. But apparently it involves some much younger kids than the late. They're all kids, but much like the age gap. It's not like a 16, 17-year-old or 17, 18-year-old, something like that. It's much younger. That's obviously a very different situation. My criticism, though, was in holding a press conference and not a lot of distinctions made between the different serious levels of misconduct. A lot of emphasis put on protecting the victims, but I think the way the BCI handled it, not exactly doing a lot to protect the accused, or even just some who were just investigated because they happen to be innocent bystanders. I just thought it was handled poorly. And also the Attorney General coming out and talking about this, he's not in charge of making the decisions on the charges. That'll be the Cass County State's Attorney's Office. The BCI is a part of the Attorney General's office, but the Attorney General in North Dakota, although I think he can prosecute cases in some, generally is not a prosecutor. And so the investigation's not done. The investigation certainly hasn't been reviewed for charges yet. And yet we had a very, and I know the Attorney General objects to if I use the word sensational, but it sure got a lot of public attention. And I think has spurred a big public reaction and has now created a lot of public expectations from this case that may be unfair.
So Drew said in his article that you have up right now that he wanted to sort of squelch the rumors that were going around about this investigation. Did just the opposite of that. I mean, it actually brought more attention to it. And I think some of the parents that you talked to really talking about how their kids being marched around the schools in, with police in tow or investigators in tow, having Drew do a press conference doesn't squelch that rumor mongering. It pours fuel on it.
I can understand the concept of there being an information vacuum.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to do but it didn't accomplish that.
But I think you can solve that with a written press release that lays out certain facts that you're comfortable with releasing to the public, and then leave it at that. So I thought that was really, unfortunate, and also I think that from a larger perspective, a zoomed out perspective, we should be concerned. I mean, if I'm a state's attorney and there's like a big crime in my jurisdiction and the BCI gets involved, is the attorney general going to ride in on their coattails and hold a press conference and Bigfoot me on this issue before I have a chance to even review the investigation is still with BCI. It has not been submitted to the Cass County. Now, maybe there's some coordination going on there or what have you. I don't know. I don't want to speak to that. But, I mean, I think this is going to, if this is how these things are going to be handled, I think there's the risk is that it's going to create friction between local prosecutors and the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, and let's be clear. I mean, this is all bad stuff. I mean, what they're investigating here is terrible stuff. There's a reason why several sessions ago, Senator Max Schneider sponsored and passed a bill outlining revenge porn. When folks would get pictures and then use it after the breakup or whatever. This is all bad stuff. But I think having law enforcement and politicians, politicians primarily, blowing this up doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the victims, the accused, the schools, anybody involved.
I get criticism sometimes when I write about these things that I'm ignoring the victims, I'm not. I mean, if my child was in some of these images, whether they're real images or whether they're AI generated images, and they're being harassed or they're being whatever was happening there, I would be incensed as a father. I guess the tact that I take with these is that there's already a ton of people. Like, that's kind of where public sentiment is automatically.
Right.
And a lot of times what gets steamrolled in that are the accused or the people on the other side. And they deserve justice as well. Because, and by the way, not everybody who had their phone seized is going to be charged with anything. Because a lot of them.
I think that's the point, right? It's not even just the accused. It's just people who might have been buddies with somebody who is doing stuff illegally, who had their phones taken away as part of the investigation.
Or got an image or something because they're on a group text. Well, how do you stop somebody from texting you something?
Right.
I mean, you could block them after the fact. But once you've got it, you've got it. And now you're under an investigation. And now the police are walking you through the school and walking you out to your car and all these things. I just think there's a more sensitive way to handle it, particularly when there are kids on both sides of this thing. And I don't want to play the kids will be kids card, because that's not it. I mean,
it's serious stuff.
Even if it was a nude image that one teenager sent to another teenager consensually, and then it got spread beyond that. That's risky behavior that parents need to intervene on. I don't know if that particular situation deserves criminal justice treatment, but I think we could have been more sensitive to everyone involved here. And sensitive as we are to victims, we got to have those sensitivities on the other side too.
I know Drew's trying to protect kids. I mean, that's where his heart is. He's trying to protect kids, but sometimes interjecting yourself as the attorney general is not the right move.
It's not. We have a text, some reader feedback that was sent in regarding our previous discussion about applied digital. Mark from Fargo text in. And by the way, if you want to leave a text or send us a voicemail, 701-587-3141. We love getting these. We love the feedback. Mark from Fargo asks, hi, Rob. Do you have a guest to discuss power discharge? Mentioned during the episode with Applied Digital CEO Wes Cummins as a guest. Reduced cost of unused, unstored power. Topic came up around 3645. Thanks, Mark. Now, Mark, I'm hoping I'm understanding your question correctly. I think what you're asking about is what does, because one thing that Applied Digital was talking about specifically with Ellendale is that their demand, it was going to eat up unused capacity. Essentially, and I don't know what specific utility it is in Ellendale, but Minn Kota maybe, I don't know, but they essentially were capable of producing more power than that region was consuming. So Applied Digital came on, could essentially use up that extra capacity, and not only did it not raise rates, what Applied Digital said is actually lowered rates in that circumstance, because now this company has more business, they can operate more efficiently, and maybe some economies of scale there. I don't know, but I think that is an interesting question. How much, as these big consumers of energy, these big new customers for North Dakota Energy move into the market, how much excess capacity do we have? And I don't know I know we have some, and I know that increasingly, for political reasons, as some people don't want coal-fired electricity anymore. I don't know that there's a precise answer to that question. We have some, but I think that's a good question to ask. And I have said consistently, as I've heard people, if I've gotten feedback, I think the one really valid concern about the data centers is what's their impact on rates. That I think is and when I've talked to state officials, I think they're keeping a weather eye on that. They don't want to see, that would be a political disaster for them if rates through the roof. I mean, they'd see a voter revolt. So they are going to be very concerned about that. And but I think that is a completely valid concern. That is my concern as well.
I have the same concern. I think we should get somebody on from the utility that provides energy down in Ellendale to talk this through.
Speak even more broadly to the capacity in the state. I don't know who that is, but I'll figure that out, and I'll see about getting them on. Thank you so much for sending that in, though, Mark. And if I didn't completely answer your question, feel free to send another text or leave another voicemail, and we'll drill down on that. But that's actually a great idea and jives nicely, because that's going to be an ongoing discussion as well. All right, we're all done. Thank you so much, as always, for everyone for listening. I am trying to call us, leave voicemail. What's the number again? 701-587-3141. Is that what it is? Have I finally memorized it?
701-587-3141. You can follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and X, which I still call Twitter, at Plain Talk ND. Coming up next week, we don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe I am working on booking somebody from the local National Federation of Independent Businesses. They had
local national. I like that.
The local chapter of the NFIB, which is a national organization. They have a national poll. Don Larson, I think, is there. I think he's going to come on. We're going to find a way to get him on, whether it's next week. But they had an interesting survey about confidence, business confidence, talking about inflation and some of the things. That'll be interesting to talk to him about. Also, we're working on getting Senator Heidi Heitkamp. I think I had pitched that she was maybe going to be on this week. That ended up not working out. We'll get her on. Her group, it's, well, I don't know that it's her group, but it's the Brookings Institute and the American Enterprise Institute. So kind of right, left. These are two well-respected, very credible think tanks. One leans left, one leans right, talking about rural economies. Really interesting stuff. Working on getting her on as well. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. Chad doesn't even need me anymore. Chad did the whole outro thing. You talk about how nervous you are about running the ship on your own, and you're a pro.
So here's the thing. I'm nervous when I have to plan to run the show on my own. If I can just jump in like that.
Dunk on me a little bit. Show me up.
Yeah, here's the deal. I like to be prepared.
For sure. I always lose track of where the phone number is. And, oh, here it is. I just found it.
Here's the deal. I happened to look to my right, and it was on the top of my great episode brief that we get from Matt. And so it was at the
When I
already.
did radio, I had to have the call-in numbers plastered above my monitor because as many times as I had to repeat them over and over again, I would be going out and I'd be trying to remember them. I just needed a place where I could look and read them and have it there to remind me. But who knows? The human mind is a mystery. Maybe
It is.
that on another show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again.
Go Dodgers.
That's it for today on Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. Plain Talk is a production of Forum Communications Company. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 701-587-3141. That's 701-587-3141. If you haven't subscribed to Plain Talk yet, you can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For those of you who are already hooked, give us a rating or review. And don't forget to share or tell a friend. Special thanks to my co-host Chad Oban, and from myself and everyone at Plain Talk, thanks for listening. I am sensitive about baseball, man.